Hello everyone, this is Pretty John P. from the Department of English, Karma College Mala. Today we are going to deal with the last part of Adrienne Rich speech claiming and education. As you know that this is a speech which is given to a group of students, I should say women students at Douglas College, New Jersey, USA. And Rich started out by saying that university education implies an ethical and intellectual contract between teacher and students, and she talks about or she elaborates the concept of responsibility to yourself. What is the difference between acting and being acted upon? Then what is responsibility to yourself, which means refusing to let others do your thinking, talking, and naming of you. It means learning to respect and use your own brains and instincts. So here she goes on elaborating this concept of responsibility with several arguments how one should be different, how a woman should have the courage to be different, how she should not remain in passive silence. So she says that educational aspiration should always be the top priority of women. So let's move on to the next paragraph. Now comes the second part of the contract. I believe that in a women's college, you have the right to expect your faculty to take you seriously. The education of women has been a matter of debate for centuries, and old negative attitudes of women's roles, women's ability to think and take leadership are still rife both in and outside the university. Many male professors, and I don't mean only at Douglas, still feel that teaching in a women's college is a second-rate career. Many tend to eroticize their women students and to treat them as sexual objects instead of demanding the best of their minds. At Yale, that is Yale University in USA, a legal suit that is Alexander was Yale has been brought against the university by a group of women students demanding a stated policy against sexual advances toward female students by male professors. Many teachers, both men and women, trained in the male centered tradition are still handling the ideas and text of that tradition onto students without teaching them to criticize its anti women attitudes, its omission of women as part of the species. Too often, all of us fail to teach the most important thing, which is that clear thinking, active discussion, and excellent writing are all necessary for intellectual freedom, and that these require hard work. Sometimes, perhaps in discouragement with a culture which is both anti intellectual and anti women, we may resign ourselves to lay low expectations for our students before we have given them half a chance to become more thoughtful, expressive human beings. So here, Adrian Rich says that the first thing is many male professors think that teaching in a women's college is a second-rate career. Then she says that the faculty of a college should be expected to take women students seriously, whether it is male or female. Again, she says that a number of male professors tend to eroticize women in the classroom, and she gives an example regarding the legal suit that is Alexander versus Yale University. She says instead of demanding for their intellectual abilities, they should not treat women as sexual objects. All women must be taken seriously by all faculty. It is required for a woman to be taken seriously, so she takes herself seriously. She says that clear thinking, active discussion, and excellent writing, these are all necessary things for intellectual freedom, and these require hard work. Rich encourages that women should seek out criticism to push themselves further to realize their true potentials, moving away from an anti-women and anti-intellectual culture of the patriarchal society, that is male-dominated society. And then she gives as illustration that is from Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Let's see that. So we need to take to heart the words of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who expresses there is a poet, a thinking woman, and a feminist who wrote in 1845 of her impatience with studies which cultivate a passive recipiency in the mind, and asserted that women want to be made to think actively. Their apprehension is quicker than that of men, but the defect lies for the most part in the logical faculty and in their higher mental activities. Note that she implies a defect which can be remedied by intellectual training, not an inborn lack of ability. So, in the last two, three sentences of this paragraph, Adrienne Rich brings Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So, who is this Elizabeth Barrett Browning? Many of you may know she is an English poet of the Victorian era. She's also the wife of the poet Robert Browning, who is very famous for his dramatic monologue. Through Barrett's writing, that often surround a cruel female oppression, Barrett expresses feminist views though often done subtly and indirectly. She uses her poems as a medium to express her aversion towards Victorian era's female oppression, which manifested itself in areas such as societal expectations and lack of independence. So, in the last part of this paragraph, Rich says that uh, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, she expressed her impatience with studies by writing against the passive recipiency. That's a phrase introduced by Adrienne Rich in this speech. So that it is against the passive recipiency in the mind. She said that women want to be made to think actively because their ability to understand is quicker than that of men. But the defect lies, for the most part, in the logical faculty and in the higher mental activities. Let's move on to the next. I have said that the contract on the student's part involves that you demand to be taken seriously so that you can also go on taking yourself seriously. This means seeking out criticism, recognizing that the most affirming thing anyone can do for you is demand that you push yourself further, show you the range of what you can do. It means rejecting attitudes of take it easy, why be so serious, why worry, you will probably get married anyway. It means assuming your share of responsibility for what happens in the classroom because that affects the quality of your daily life here. It means that the student sees herself engaged with the teachers in an active, ongoing struggle for a real education. But for her to do this, her teachers must be committed to the belief that women's minds and experience are intrinsically valuable and indispensable to any civilization worthy the name. That there is no more exhilarating and intellectually fertile place in the economic world today than a women's college. If both students and teachers in large enough numbers are trying to fulfill this contract. So the contract is really a pledge of mutual seriousness about women, about language, ideas, methods, and values. It is a shared commitment towards a world in which the inborn potentialities of so many women's minds will no longer be wasted, raveled away, paralyzed, or denied. In this last paragraph, Adrian Rich says that women students demand to be taken seriously because they also have the inborn potentialities. So the teachers, they should be committed to the belief that women's minds and experiences are basically valuable and unavoidable or inevitable to any civilization worthy the name. seeking out criticism, recognizing that most affirming thing anyone can do for Rich claims that everything one learns reflects how men have perceived history and experiences. As a feminist, she says that what history is his story and not her story and her experiences. So that is given in the curriculum. Women should not sell their talents and aspirations cheaply. They should have the courage to demand from others to respect their sense of purpose and their integrity as persons, because we live in a society that embraces abstract thinking and making something out of nothing. Throughout life, people viewed women as mothers before any other career they pursued. As a feminist, Adrienne encouraged the students of Douglas College to claim their education, and they have to take control of their futures by having responsibility to oneself. So this speech that Rich delivers conveys her stance or her position on education, political issues, and how it affects the lives of the students, especially women students. So this is the end of the Claiming an Education by Adrienne Rich. Thank you. Thank you for your patient listening.